Thank you for coming. I hope you won't end up regretting your decision. Never know what's going to come out of my mouth, folks. Anyway, okay. You can hear me? Hear me all right? Yeah? Okay. Compassion, awareness, wisdom. Does anybody have a question to start off the class with? Anything about your practice? Okay. But you should think about during the weeks if you do have the purpose of these classes is to spend time together in the exploration of the Dharma and developing our practices. So anything that I can do to help you on your journey, I'm happy to do. And asking questions allows me the opportunity to have a sense of where you're at, and maybe if I could say something of value. So Jim asked me a question a couple of classes ago, and I've still been thinking about it because it's so sorry. I'm checking my stand here. I think it's okay. And it's that place in meditation where we start to get quiet and we're fairly focused, but there's this background continuum of thought that we become aware of. And there's a certain level of practice where we find ourselves there quite a bit. And it's an interesting place because it allows us to look at thought. It's a good opportunity to look at thought. In the beginning, when we're practicing, or at times when we're practicing, our thoughts have a lot of energy to them, maybe a lot of emotion to them. And it can be difficult to see the thought for the thought. But then as the energy becomes, as we become calmer and more concentrated, that movement of thought is still there, but a lot of those thoughts, they don't have a lot of juice to them. They don't have a lot of power to them. They're just kind of these repetitive narratives that run through our minds. So it's a good opportunity to notice that and to see what that experience is. Do you know the experience when you're maybe you wake up in the morning, or you're having afternoon nap. Let's just say waking up in the morning. And you wake up and you're lying in bed and you fall asleep again for a short period of time, like it's morning time. So it's like whatever time you wake up, 6 or 7. You wake up and you're lying in bed and you're like, I'm not quite ready for the day. And you turn over and then you just go into this kind of dream state. And you have a, a dream, but you're aware of the dream, right? You're aware, and then you wake back up and you were aware that you were dreaming, that you were going outside and taking a walk in the park or whatever your dream was. And it's very clear when you wake back up that you were in a dream state, right? And you were cognitive, you were aware of the activity of mind. But upon waking, it's like, oh, that was a dream state. It's very, very clear. When we're moving through our day and or we're meditating and we're in that place, but let's stay with that place with the meditation. When we're like in our meditation and we're staying relatively focused on the breath or on sensations. And suddenly we become aware that we've been thinking for maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds, maybe longer. How dissimilar is that from the dream state? Think about it. It's the same state. Instead of me saying that definitively, look at it for yourself. Think about it when you're lying in bed and you fall asleep and you wake up. Note that. That's dreaming. When you're lost in thought, and you catch yourself and you're meditating and you're lost in thought. How's that different? What are you thinking about? You're thinking about something in the future or something in the past, right? You're thinking about going for a walk in the park or the walk that you had in the park. Is that any different? Being lost in thought for a few moments when you're doing your formal practice or as you're moving through your day, as you're sitting down drinking your cup of tea in the afternoon and you're looking around the room, you're looking out the window and then you realize that you've been thinking about something that happened a week ago, or you've been thinking about what you'll do the next day. Is that any different? They talk about enlightenment as waking up from a dream state. We know that experience when we're lying in bed in the morning. We know that experience for what it is. But what about when we're having our cup of tea in the morning and we're looking out the window and we're thinking about what we're going to do that evening? Is that reality? It's a creation in the mind. What's a dream? It's a creation. It's the mind telling us a story. So when we wake up from one or we wake up from the other, what's the difference? And what does it mean to wake up from it? We're aware. We're aware of what the mind was doing. There's just an awareness there. That's what that is. So as we develop the practice, we begin to catch ourselves more when we're dreaming, when we're thinking about the past or the future. There's the present moment, there's the experience of sound coming in, sensations coming in, activity taking place. There's all of that. But then there's the mind telling the stories about it. And that's a different thing. That's a different thing. So we wake up from the dream state and we're just simply present with what is. And as we develop that presence, there is just an awareness of the cognitive factor in the mind. It's just an awareness of that awareness. And we start to get a sense, we start to allow ourselves just to rest there, to rest in that. Just to rest in that awareness. And so when the dream comes up, when the fantasy comes up, when the narrative comes up, we're less inclined to follow it. You have your dream in the morning, and then you get out of bed and you forget about it. You're moving on with your day. We have a particular narrative in our minds when we're moving through our day, and it can really catch us. It can really catch us and push us in all different types of directions. But if we start to have a sense of that fundamental truth of the dream state, of the fantasy, they say, you can't make this stuff up, man. Well, actually, we do. We make it all up. But the underlying aspect of awareness is always with us. So when we start to see the dream for the dream, when we start to see the thought for the thought, then that underlying cognitive aspect, that clarity aspect, just presents itself. That's what's seeing the dream. That's what's seeing the thought. So when we're in our meditation and we start to get calmer, and then we find we have those kind of repetitive thought patterns that are there in the background that really don't move us in any direction. That's why I said to Jim at that point, we need to bring more awareness to that place, because we're still kind of caught in the dream. And one of the ways I think I said to Jim is to just go back to the breath for for a bit, just to develop a little bit more concentration in that moment, because it's the concentrated mind that is able to find that seat of cognition that's unmoved by the appearances of mind. And that's what we're talking about, appearances of mind here. The dream is an appearance of mind, the thought is an appearance of mind. So we'll change the word instead of saying dream or thought, we'll call it appearances. So we start to see the appearance of mind as the appearance of mind. We start to see it just for what it is. And the other part of it, of course, the other quality to keep always close to our heart is the impermanence of it. Whatever arises passes away. Whatever arises passes away. There's this underlying awareness, this underlying Buddha field, if you will, and there's appearances. There's this underlying calm, there's this underlying clarity, and there's appearances, whether in the dream state or the waking state. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. But we identify, of course, with the appearances. We see it as self. So it's this knowing, it's this contemplation of thought. It's a contemplation of appearances, of the rise and fall of appearances, that allows us to develop the capacity, allows us to develop the courage, allows us to develop the confidence to say, this is a dream state. This is a thought. This is a narrative. This is a pattern. We do it again and again and again. Falling asleep and waking up is a really good time to look at that. Really good time. I find waking up, the mind is really fresh. Really fresh. So on the moment of waking, look then. Look then. And spend a little extra time in bed before you jump up. And just watch that process. Think about that process. Because that's what we're doing, is we're watching our experience, we're watching our process. We're watching it and we're learning from it. That's what we're doing, right? We're developing mindfulness, and we're developing concentration, and we're developing discernment or wisdom. We're seeing it. That was a dream. Did you ever have this? I forget what it was with me the other day, but it was one of those morning dreams. But it was something that wasn't good. And then when I realized it was a dream, I was so relieved. Like, oh man. I can't remember what it was, but I remember sometime within the last month or so, waking up and must have said something wrong to somebody. Anyway, oh, good. It was a dream. But look at that. And then when you know it's a dream, right? When you know it's a dream, then you're free, right? You're free. Didn't happen. Doesn't touch you. Doesn't touch who you are. It absolutely doesn't touch who you are. But it's the same with mental states and thoughts. Absolutely doesn't touch who you are, who we are. And that is the place that we're trying to recognize. Right? That's what we're trying